Hi guys, I had some questions on hanging guard transitions and some back edge technique questions, so I thought I would address those this week. Hanging guard transitions, doing them smoothly and feeling confident using them in sparring is challenging for a lot of people. So I have a few different ways that I teach them, and one thing that's a really important focus on is what I call soft hands. There really isn't a time where you should have a super death grip on the sword. So the most basic way I teach hanging guard transitions is I tell people to take kind of a central, just horse stance, right, nice and even. You're gonna take your sword, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna just put the point into the dirt, just straight down in front of you, boom. So if I wanna do a hanging guard to my right side, and that's gonna end up being the uncrossed side, what's gonna happen is if I take my left hand off, my left hand's gonna keep a pretty firm grip, and it's gonna rotate up and around so that my fingers are pointed towards the sky. That's what the left hand is doing. So it's kind of like I'm doing a one-handed saber block, right? So see, my fingers are pointed towards the sky. When I put my right hand back, what I'm doing is I'm letting the handle roll in my hand. You don't have to keep it that open. I'm emphasizing for instructional purposes. So if I want to roll to my right side, I keep my right hand loose. And I like to make sure that my forearm is protected behind my guard, and I'm going to adjust my body rather than push my arms to address the threat. Because if I turn my body, I stay pretty covered. If I push my arms across and my elbow starts peeking out, there's a good chance I'm going to get hit in the elbow, and that really sucks. So if I'm practicing in my horse stance, I'm going to keep a firm left-handed grip. I'm going to let the sword rotate in my right hand. Now the blade is protecting my forearm. I can adjust it, and certainly, you know, when I'm using my stance, I might be a little bit more leaned in. If I'm stepping out, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to keep a firm left hand. I'm going to roll in the right hand, and I'm stepping under and see how my forearm is protected. And then I can push the pommel and cut around, and that gives me a nice, smooth, fast, easy transition. When I'm doing this, I like to make sure that I'm looking under the quillions, because if I do this, I'm not really protecting my head very well, and my hands are very vulnerable. So I want to make sure that when I roll up, I'm looking under the quillions. The point is slightly dipped down. It gives me a nice overcut. If I'm rolling to the left, and that's a crossed one, and that's harder for a lot of people, essentially the way the hands are functioning is reversed. So if I take my left hand off, I'm going to roll up until my right fingers are pointed towards the sky, and now I have essentially that one-handed saber block over to my left side. So that means now that my left hand has to be a little bit loose. So now I'm looking under the quillions. This is going pretty much across my forearm, and I'm adjusting the body rather than pushing with the arms, which might keep my elbow out. So it's going to be the same thing. If I'm stepping out, I'm going to roll up, point it slightly forward, and then I can pull the pommel and get a nice cut. So a good basic drill, if you're really having trouble with the hanging guard transition, is take that horse stance, point in the dirt, roll to the right, point in the dirt, roll to the left, point in the dirt, and just practice doing a hanging guard and straight down in front of you. And go as slow as you need to so that this starts coming smooth. One thing to make sure you try to avoid, when we're doing this rolling, I can roll with my point mostly in front of you. See how I'm rolling and my point is mostly in the camera? I'm not flopping over. That's takes a long time, and that's a big gap where people can hit under my sword. I'm actually just going to pull their sword into me. So we want to practice the roll motion, not what I call the flop, okay? Once that starts to feel comfortable, we can start doing this with some footwork, which is actually going to help with the flow. So if I start with my right foot lead, I'm going to roll up to my uncrossed hanging guard, step left, and do an overcut. I'm going to roll to my left, step with my right, and do the other overcut. And I can roll and step and roll and step. You can just practice doing this forward and back. That starts to feel comfortable. You can start practicing those offline steps, where I actually step with the roll and pivot with the cut, step with the roll, pivot with the cut, and I can do that going forward and back. And if that starts feeling comfortable and you want to practice that on the Pell, I'm just going to remind you about the ladder drill where we start with the low target. So I'm going to cut the low target, step and pivot, step and pivot, step and pivot, step and pivot, and I can work my way up and down the ladder. There are some more advanced hanging guard drills that we do at the classes, but I think I'll keep it there for now and play with those, see how they feel. Send me a message or an email if you feel like those get too easy too fast, and I can give you some of the more advanced variations.